you say is true that the use of these powers they have versus choice, and then should be ready for the consequences. Uh, I can even see it in my own. I had some past life dreams, past life experiences, and I saw the effect of using these powers. And in that episode, that real sad experience I was really under pain because I was being stoned to death. The only thing that it could use against me was stones. And at that moment, all the conjuring powers that I could invoke as they were stoning me could not do anything. So they eventually stoned me to death in that real sad experience. So when one practices such things I had done in some of my past lives, practice a lot of magic and was doing some supernatural things, you know. So when the time came for me to pay, I also paid in a very grueling manner. And look at the way that incarnation ended for me through stoning. So it has consequences. Okay, I want to talk about electromagnetic fields today and their impact. I understand Duane does a lot of work online on a daily basis, and you're always with these forces swirling around you. So, is it that the vibrations you carry with you that you are constantly dwelling in, as focused on the east, they are so powerful that they upset any negative effects from electromagnetic fields that are swirling around you? So I think it would seem that the pulses you emit can eclipse whatever EMP that is artificially emitted. So I don't know, because you seem to be very much in good health in spite of all these forces you are exposed to. So I want you to talk a bit on this, because some people cannot stand it.
Yeah, everybody's a little different. I feel this stuff. I feel the heaviness of it. I really do. It's very heavy here. Actually, when Claudia was here, it almost annihilated her. It was so heavy. She could barely move after several weeks of being here. And she got on a plane and went back to Texas. And she was shown that she basically wouldn't survive here with it. It became very heavy to her. She was very susceptible to it. And again, I feel it every day. I feel this heaviness. It's very magnified here, especially with the hotels and everything, and just the concentration of people in this area, etc. And I remember going to Mexico, down near the tip of Baja, many times, and what a difference when you're out there, when you don't have all the Wi-Fi and whatever. It's really a difference. It's really like a breath of fresh air. And then when you come back here, it's like, wow, it's like you're on Mars. It's just not good. It's not good at all. This is where I'm really focused, very focused. on this universal community to bring this through. I can't tell everybody what's going on right now, but it's in its process because it's huge. It surpasses even the funding I've talked about for years, which is great. I just would use that as a vehicle, that's all, but eventually get past that. We don't need that either. And it would be for those people that can see it. But this has been my focus for this planet, this galaxy, and through creation because of what has taken place. We're in such a position of demise. And Kelsey had an experience she shared with me the other day about she was being shown how the consciousness of the planet is closing because of the agreement level here. It's so huge with the demise. And for the most part, when people just go to work or whatever, they don't see it. And they don't see, you see all these people walking around too. Charles here, I see them all. They're jogging, they're surfing, they're going to the restaurants, they're having fun. They're bathing in this nonsense, bathing in it, and they all seem fine. But it just looks that way. And I see the world. I see what's going on. And yes. I want to take on the adventure of doing this. For those that are here, this is why everybody came here, is to wake up, and things are being cut off, especially now that they're moving into 5G, and from 5G they'll eventually go to 6G. It'll just get worse and worse and worse, and it just bears on people. It really does, and they don't see it. More people getting cancers, whatever. And so, my body is affected by it too in its own way, but I seem to handle it so far. But everybody's a little different, I would say. I don't really analyze it. I just get up and deal with it, but I know that there's a lot of influence from it, huge influence, especially when I was in the hospital several years ago, those 5 days, and I could, because the Wi-Fi was so concentrated in hospitals, I could see on the real side, I could see all this stuff that was taking place, and it's just, it's like a nightmare. Yeah, it really is. And most people don't see it. It's sheltered from them. Well, they just don't see it, and they don't want to see it. I understand that too. I get it, but it's still happening. So, yes, I'm just like anybody else. I focus on the is adamantly. And yes, I'm sure that this does offset things. Of course it does, because it's the awareness of the individual. Most people are sucking all this stuff in. I just focus on the is. And things take place as they will. They do. And so for the most part, especially on the real side, I don't get bothered by the reptilians and the aliens and a lot of these things. I really don't. I don't have the experiences a lot of people do because I'm very focused on certain things and what's workable for something of a benefit. And people need that here. They need something. This is the idea of the vessel projects, and not necessarily we build the vessels, but they're built on the real side. But the vessels are a symbol, a representation of what we're doing. And if they're built here, fine. If the world needs them, just always heading towards something, doing something. The little bits we're doing until the bigger picture is accomplished. It's a really big picture the boys are doing, very, very big. Very few people know about it, but I just don't want to spread it around right now. But it will come to be, and I seem to be right in the middle of it. But we'll see. We'll see what happens here. So again, everybody just hang on. And like I suggested, the projects and whatever you can do. See, this This brings about the awareness. This is what it is. In other words, it's the projects like what we're doing or anything, it ignites the awareness of the individual. We need a challenge to shock us or wake us up at times. We get too commonplace, and this is what we need. And so I've always done this for myself. I always put things out there, then I make myself do it. Not necessarily that I want to do it, no, but I make myself do it. I kind of shock myself into doing it. And by that very fact, taking on the challenge and confronting it, I see more. I see how it works. And so there's always something, no matter what, that can be done that's a challenge. See, I take on the stuff that no one will take on, that does not seem possible. But I decide to do it anyhow. And you know what? It starts to become possible. But you have to decide that. So, yeah. And so again, all life is awareness, and each individual decides how they want to, have their awareness. You are the decider. And so it's very important, and that is that you have the guidance, you have the material, you have whatever. But just like living with your parents, you're getting ready to get on your own. So again, you don't necessarily look to the guides for your answers. You decide how your life is going to be. And then as you make the choices, they will demonstrate to you if the choices that you've made, will they stand real with you and back you with those choices, you see? But you got to make the choice. You got to take the risk to do that. And, everybody gets it in a different way. Some people are shown, point blank what it is. Most people have to figure it out. I basically had to figure it out. I just decided things. I looked at things that seemed to make sense and went with it. And just kept figuring it out until we are here with the new presentation as it is today because of what is taking place. But I didn't really ask. I just decided to do something and decided something that, would be outlandish, just like taking away the queen. When I saw what was possible with that, like I said before, I put in the request and stood there with that. And the boys backed me and they took her away. But, if I didn't decide that, who would? It would still be so. And so is change on Orion because of that. So again, it's a very interesting adventure that we're having here, like no other. And it does not align itself with the old ways of doing things. That's a reference, that's all, but it's not a reality. It's just like every year they come out with a new car model. It's like the old one, but it's not the old one. It's the new one. And this is the best part of this adventure, is recognizing every moment that there is always something else possible. And it's just not one thing, but it's endless. And so when you can learn to pick something that is a benefit, it's there. It's like a buffet. It's there. You decide something and you see accordingly to the environment you're in. What would make sense? What would make sense? That's all. I'll give a briefing on this one experience because of what has taken place right now on the real side, and we'll come into the physical. This is part of the universal community. I have made a determination to shut down certain things that are of no use, and implied to these areas that I suggest you do organic gardening and grow something, food or whatever. Well, this was shown on the real side, and again, plus other things. Yeah, there's huge adventures coming with all that this universal community implies. There's way more than what has been known, a whole lot more. Be nothing like it. But it's going to take a lot, and so that's my focus. from all that's taking place, because the world is not doing good and the world keeps deciding to do itself in. It's not my decision. You cannot take things away from people. You cannot, it's almost like you cannot take the candy away from the baby, or the baby screams for the candy, or it can even choke on its own its own saliva, because it wants the candy. So what does the person do? They give back the candy. People want what they want, and this is how people are. They're babies. They want what they want, and they're very determined to have it. So you can't stop people from doing that. You can, but you can't. They have to figure it out for themselves, because it's part of their wake up. They're really taking on a challenge that they don't recognize, but they need that challenge. They need that challenge to wake up. And so instead of waiting for the challenge, instead of waiting, you might say, for my mistakes to show up, I decide the challenge. I always decide the challenge. And so just to be here, yes, with all the Wi-Fi and everything, that's a huge challenge in itself. It's all a challenge that we're just even here right now. But as we confront it and keep moving further, you become more aware. And this does add to a position, but not everybody will see this. This is in the scene, you see. It's not necessarily in the creative part of what's taking place, but it's in the scene of what's going on. It's in your real awareness. That is the better part. You see that when Paul was here and anything like that and before, the focus was on the material. The focus was on the individual. See? And yes, our focus is on the guidance, of course. But realistically, the bigger picture is the isness, to recognize this isness. Now, in the past, that was, it was kind of like living with our parents. This is where I said that Paul is the babysitter, and all these gurus and masters are babysitters, what they are, because they babysit people. They don't point them directly, even though they refer to a God, but we know that doesn't mean anything. It's just a cute idea. And so Paul used these ideas too, just to get something started. And so now we're in this isness, and this is where, now that people have the knowledge of this, to utilize this, but to step up and take the risk with it, because of what's taking place in the world, and also to become more aware. That's the whole idea. In other words, it's not sitting there just reading the courses and doing the new, but doing something, you might say, that shocks the personal self, takes you out of your patterns. Otherwise, you're just going to, you might say, gradually fade away like you always have with all these patterns that you've created, because the personal self just creates patterns. The reality of life is the endless isness. There's no patterns. There's none of this stuff. You get stuck in these patterns. And so this becomes the difference. Yes. So, this all bears on us here. It bears on me too, to be here and to do this. And like everybody else, I see it. I'm trying to really bring something forward, because we've been through this for so many lifetimes, thousands, millions. We really have. It's almost endless. It doesn't matter how many. It's not about yugas and whatever, and like Paul talked about. It's not even about that. It just keeps going on because of what people decide. Well, enough's enough. We don't have to do this anymore. So bringing people into this focus, into a true realism and reality like never before, that's a toughie. That's toughy for people to see this, because at the same time, the world controllers want everybody robotized and literal, thinking that, again, they've basically literalized the population into thinking that thinking is where it's at, when it's really not. And they've forgotten why they're here. So to determine this and to decide this, and because I did, I had to. I didn't have to do this. I didn't have to do any of this that we're doing. I could have just done the books and the works, whatever, but I kept seeing more and I kept deciding more. So I kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger until it's, until it takes on the galaxy, the whole world, the galaxy, and all of creation, taking it all on to where before it wasn't like that. These spiritual paths and all this, they have their little cozy spots somewhere in creation, basically physical astral plane. They have their little cozy spots. They're not taking on the rest of it. But because I decided that, well, all of a sudden, Rebazar brought all these silent ones, the true silent ones from the real universes into creation. And there was a point there months and months ago that they actually moved the galaxy several feet. Well, that's huge. That can be light years. They just called it feet. But to provide an opportunity and opening for a little bit longer for people to have this chance. Because again, the whole of life does not interfere with people in creation. And the boys act as intermediates. That's what I'm here, acting as an intermediate to share this with people so that they have this chance. But free will is very important because this is what all of life is. And beyond that, what's really cool is, like I said, you don't need free will in the real universe because it supports you. But you have to recognize how it supports you from your own personal determination. So, yes, getting back to handling all this, well, I'm just very focused, and so I don't have a scale or a gauge how this works with me. I still have to deal with things with the physical body, but and I've almost died many times, but I've always been determined to stick it out and stay for as long as it takes to do something here. And most people won't see that. They won't understand that. But it's not me. It's life itself. It's Rebazar and the boys. They back it up. That becomes the reality of it. That we all decide that this is what we're going to do. And so it's always taking the risk. And so being here is always taking the risk dealing with this. But as you become more aware, all right, as you take on the challenge of becoming more aware and doing something, whatever it is, like we're doing in the college, and it's a huge resistance, huge. Val's going through a lot. We're all taking part in this. But he sees a lot more. This is where the real protection comes in, you see. People look for protection. Like James Bond, he goes out there, he don't look for protection. He just goes and does it. He risks his life. And by the very fact you do that, everything equals itself. There's your protection when you get out of yourself and your routines and you do something different. No matter what, no matter if you can't do it or whatever. If you just sit there and say, well, I've never done this before, I can't do it, I don't know what to do. Well, yeah. But if you start to do something and forget all that, then you'll be okay. But it's just doing it. But if you don't, then you've done nothing. And every day, your life goes on, and you sit and wonder what to do. The world's dying. It's flat out dying. Everybody you see walking around, they're dying. It's very real. It doesn't matter how happy and healthy they are. They're dying. They're all self-absorbed in this. Again, like the college, we're rattling people's cages. Yeah, it bothers them. But at the same time, they're seeing us. We're giving them the opportunity to see us. That's all we can do. And they must make the choice. It's their life. But through all this process, we're giving them that opportunity. You see, that becomes the difference. So it's fun to do this. And, really the whole idea of the college, what we're doing there was the event. From that, all these situations occurred, investigations, this and that, all this nonsense, huge resistance, but it's okay. It's all okay. We'll see how far it goes till the next step. We'll see if we'll finish it or we'll, take off from there. But the area that we're in, Charles here, I look at Africa and the places out there and how wonderful. I would love to live on a farm with the animals and whatever. It'd be awesome. We're looking to go to Kenya someday or whatever and have a huge area and to where we could have the universal community start somewhere. We will be shown. That's what we're shown in those areas. And so, yeah, I'd love it. But in the meantime, I'm here and I'm buried. Again, it's heavy here. It's very heavy. And the chemtrails, since we took the queen away, are huge. The harp is more so here, Kelsey and Valsia too. And, again, they're nasty here. Just like over in Africa, the black magic. They're nasty here. This is their black magic. Chemtrails, Wi-Fi, GMO food, whatever they can do. This is their black magic. They don't have to throw lightning bolts. They're getting the people with whatever they're doing. So, but your awareness and your protection, come forward with stepping up and deciding to do something you've never done before, taking on the challenge to do that. That becomes an overall benefit. And this is where many people have stepped back because their personal life was more important. Well, that's all you have. It's a choice. It's not good or bad. I do the best I can to inform people and to even bug them and bother them, etc. Like I have been by the boys. They shake their fingers at me times and etc. and to wake me up in different areas. There's always something. Always something. But I stay focused because the isness is what it is. And we're so fortunate to know this now. Because what Harry and Joni are doing with the corporation as an example, and everybody else and all these other people that whine and complain because I talk about them and how tap-lined they are, it doesn't work. None of it's working. It don't work. It's all failing. It looks good. Because it's a business world. People think, oh, well, they have a lot of members and it's all doing good and everybody's happy. It's not working. Yeah, it's a business plan. Business plans work good here because this is how the cabal has set it up, the one world order. They set up this world to be a business and people to be literal so they can be controlled. That's what business is. The Indians never did business. They traded things and whatever. That was their type of business, but that wasn't their lifestyle to where it's a career. They didn't have careers, doing that. Their whole lifestyle was with the natural environment and continually discovering, how to survive better here and a better understanding of the whole of life for what they knew at that time. But today it's not. It's all about career and doing business and making products and selling and how much money you make. And the cabal created the money for people to chase because it's an easy way to control people. So, yes, we're buried. So, again, those people that step up, have the courage to do something, yeah, it's good for you because it's all for you. It's all for all of us. And then eventually it's being to being, we recognize each other. This is the awesome part of it that you can't even imagine. And it's endless. So we're in the prelude steps here. But the challenge is, I see it's very necessary. Otherwise, just doing the groups and whatever, after a while, people dwindle away because it's the same old thing. And they're looking for something else. But this is where, the guidance is provided. This is where I suggest that people do something to take on a challenge. The harder, the better. Don't look for easy things. Look for something impossible to do. Yeah, really. Look for something impossible to do. So what we're doing here with Val in the college is that, because these things have come up, well, we've, confronting these. Val is confronting these, and Kelsey goes too, and I write things. And so we're continually going on until something else comes up with what we're doing. To even, we file these complaints, okay? But really what they are is we're just simply sharing what's going on. But they're complaint forms, okay? It's just filling out forms. But we keep going with that. Keep going if it's to the President of the United States, whatever, through all this nonsense. But we're sharing something, and we're letting these people know. They see that we're here, and they're investigating us. They start with the WWEE, but it goes deeper than that as they start to see it. Then they see the worldwide educators, then they see Duane the Great Writer, and of course, they're going to have their own ideas of that. But they decide they're given the opportunity because they are so entrenched in their own routines that they can't see through it. But through that investigation, they can possibly see something that will benefit them if they will take the risk. And most people won't, but they're still given the opportunity. The sun is shining, and it's always shining every day. The sun has seen everything on this earth constantly that's taken place. And each person on the earth has the opportunity to recognize what it's demonstrating. But who will take the time just to start there? That's huge, to recognize that. Yes, it means a lot because it can bring you into recognizing the yes. That's why I've said it many times. But now you're on earth and you have a body, and the challenge with this body, is it to keep itself satisfied, or is it to, I've always overworked mine. I'm amazed that it's lasted this long. I've way overworked it. And so, but that's what I do because I'm grateful. I don't see anything else, especially with the world and what it's doing. And so I've geared my life. I quit my construction business and all that finally, and geared it to where I'm always starving and hard to pay the rent, but to the point of that this is all I want to do because we only have so much time. And then it's over with. Once it's over with, it's over with. Anything can happen. Got too much free will going on here, and the boys see it too. One thing leads to another. So I don't know, but yes, Charles, thank you for bringing that up. I know I went roundabout, but there's so many things that imply to all of this, you see. It's just not one little answer to anything. There's a big picture here, and the world is really bad off. And I'm not saying to look at the world as bad or any of this stuff is bad. I'm just saying that, there's challenges all around us, and who will decide to figure something out that does something. Yes, anything at all, wherever you're at. Anybody can do whatever. And so this is just what we're doing here. There are not more opportunities in the United States. I'd actually, if I was in Africa, I would have more fun there. I would see that there's more opportunities there. The United States, we have more restriction here. It only appears, that there's more opportunities here. Yeah, there is to become self-absorbed and lost and dumbed down. There's more opportunities here. I'd rather be in the wilderness with the animals and the environment and take on the challenges there. Yes. And plus, when you're doing funny things, especially with the authorities, whatever, hey, you can hide in the bushes. You guys got a lot of bushes over there, so you can run and hide in the bushes and have fun doing that like we did when we were little kids. Here you can't. You got spy cameras everywhere. Droids, spy cameras, satellites, etc. Oh, yeah. This place is all honed in. You guys are still out in the wild there. That's kind of fun. Yeah, like when we were kids. So, yeah, just trying to relay this so that, yes, we're all on this earth. We're all being buried by this stuff. And so, again, for the few moments that we have, because the bodies are growing older and it's more feeble and harder to handle these things, those few moments, take on the risk to do something you've never done before, because it's all for you. We have this opportunity now, and as things happen, like you're saying, like in Cameroon or whatever, people's attention are very scattered and they can't focus. We're lucky. We can focus. Take advantage of that focus. Yes, and take on the challenge. Then you get grooved in that challenge, and then pretty soon you want the challenges, no matter what it is. You'll make more challenges, and you'll see how it works. You'll become more aware. And yes, this becomes your adventure, and the boys will back you, as you do it and present something to the world. Yes, go ahead, Charles.